Hello everyone, Solomon AD here, back with another video about a topic very sensitive in nature. But I believe that as anyone with a voice and experience in the occult community should give their 2 cents on controversial topics, despite controversy it may bring, because that is what we need to have as an actual discussion. And I understand that there may be some negative views about what I'm about to say. I think that's mostly due to the fact that there's a lot of cancel culture within the occult sphere in the modern day. So I wanted to talk about something which I find a problem with: contemporary, trendy worship of Santa Muerte, La Santísima Muerte. You don't really find this problem amongst more like lineage-based practitioners of this spirit. And I'll just go ahead and say I do have experience with Santa Muerte. Do I work with her now? I do not. I have not worked with her for years. Me and members of my family have worked with her years ago. How did this come about? It needs to be said, I grew up in the metropolitan areas of Washington, D.C. and neighboring Baltimore. In these metropolitan areas, there are bustling Latino communities. There you will find in these metaphysical shops called botanicas that there is a compilation of practices that you will find. Santeria is a big one, Afro-Caribbean influence, but also Mexican folk magic, amongst other things. As well as you will find a lot of like Catholic folk magic from Latin America. So you see a lot of St. Michael stuff, although that's actually a topic for another video, of like a lot of the angel stuff. It's not typical that you would, the methods are not what you would associate with ceremonial magic. You will find pentacles, but it's still not, people don't approach it the same way. It's much more of a hoodoo thing, and then hoodoo itself. So it's very much, I guess you could say in a way, it's kind of like a chaos magic of its own, but if you go into those shops and you talk about chaos magic, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about. And honestly, to this day, there's a large portion of this community that doesn't really speak fluent English. And it was definitely the case like mid-2000s when I was like coming up on it. So I have a lot of street knowledge when it comes to this subject. Now, there are actual lineages of La Santísima Muerte and cults of La Santísima Muerte that primarily they hold strong to the system in the southwest of the United States, as well as parts of central and northern Mexico. You will find Santísima Muerte all the way down through South America. And I mean Mexico, Central America, and South America, because there's plenty of groups out there or collectives in, I know, Colombia that work with Santísima Muerte. When I worked with her, there was a color-based system. However, nobody within the community where I was truly well-versed or wasn't willing to share that knowledge. So with that being said, there is kind of a poor man's approach to working with La Santísima Muerte. But what's going on primarily with like the left-hand path communities is that I believe that they're approaching La Santísima Muerte in ways that are not very kosher. And I don't just want to say like disrespectful, just like really inauthentic. And the cancel culture impulse is to say, well, who are you to suggest that I can't practice with things like this? That is not the point that I'm making. The point I'm trying to make is a very simple analogy that magic and occult stuff is just like cooking. You can add whatever you want to the recipe, but if it comes out and it does not taste good, then it's not working. Cooking is a science and an art that is open to a lot of personal interpretation. However, if it doesn't taste good, it doesn't taste good. There's a difference between a Lunchable and like a Lunchable style pizza and like a 5-star Italian restaurant type pizza. And that's being generous with the example. There's people that just don't know how to cook, period, like myself, and will try to make an actual recipe and it won't taste very good. Now try somebody who doesn't know how to cook and put some blindfolds on them, and then you're mixing ingredients that really don't need to go together at all. And I feel like that's the approach with Santa Muerte that's going on these days. Now I can make a whole list of the problems I see going wrong with this, but the biggest and easiest problem to address is quite literally in her name. La Santísima Muerte, or Santa Muerte, translates to holy death, or Santa can translate to saint. This is because of the history of the Aztec death goddess, the wife of Mictlantecutli, being synchronized with the Virgin Mary, Virgin of Guadalupe, as well as a few other folk components. And then we have this egregoric spin on an entity. It works. It works. It clearly does work. People who work with Santa Muerte get results. And it's a very, very dynamic entity. It can address a lot of general problems. It can address a lot of general functions. Love, money, even higher gnosis, which is typically what most lineages are not really looking for, but I think they find it after some time, judging by their demeanor. But there seems to be a forcing of removing the Catholic elements from La Santa Muerte. The problem with that is that her name literally means saint, that her name literally means holy, and that she literally is wearing the garb. You could say it's a Grim Reaper outfit, but it's the garb of the Virgin Mary. So that this death goddess has a motherly figure and has some kind of Catholic reconciliation, so that people in a Catholic oppressed society, Mexicans, Latinos across Latin America, could still have some kind of connection with this deity. That is the purpose of her garb. That is the purpose of her name. There seems to be some kind of forcing of like trying to get La Santa Muerte, removing the Catholic elements from her to the point where it's not her. Like they're not actually trying to work with her. They're trying to, because of their conflicts with Judeo-Christian beliefs, they are stretching this deity out into a way that it's not functional. And I don't want to say that I can, because you can never confirm anything in the occult. But if you listen to the kind of messages that they are receiving, they are not high quality messages. And I believe that is a sign that their approach is haphazard. Santa Muerte is embedded, or I should say Catholic beliefs are embedded in La Santa Muerte. And that's just the way it is, because you have hundreds of years at this point, or at least 200 years at this point, of Catholic synchronization unto the deity, and you have had masses of people practiced this with her to a higher extent than anybody in the contemporary occult has, to fully embed these Catholic qualities into her. And if you don't believe that, even the famed drug cartels that work with Santa Muerte, they still work or worship in a Catholic manner. And you could say, oh, they just do that because they don't actually believe in Jesus and God. They do. We have actual evidence of this and testimonials. Where you can find these, I'm not going to link it below, but I'll say that there's plenty of like actual like evidence uncovered by like the DEA on these drug runs, and enough of like personal testimonies from these drug dealers that you can find at like insight.org or Borderland Beat. Any kind of news, or like reliable news source that does investigations on drug cartels or like famous drug busts, and they go through the case study. Even the International Spy Museum has like podcasts that were about the war on drugs in Mexico. Because drug cartels, as bad as they are, they still grew up with Catholicism, and they still repent to God. Not all of them, but there's many that, you know, they will worship Santa Muerte, but they will also repent to God for their sins and whatnot. Why? I mean, they have families too. And a lot of times they were growing up in a society where they had no choice but to live the bad life, and they want a better life for their children. So they still very much run these kinds of beliefs. Sorry, I just got a message and it was distracting me. I believe stretching an entity out this far, like literally to where it's a stretch, is unhealthy. However, I will offer a healthy alternative, because I have seen this work personally for me and work personally for others. What are you trying to get to? That is the question someone working with Santa Muerte should be asking. What are you trying to get to? If you want a death-style deity that you feel called to, that is, maybe Santa Muerte is where it starts, but that's not where it's actually leading you. Maybe you should work with the actual Aztec death goddess. I know this because that's why I stopped working with Santa Muerte and transitioned completely to working with the Mayan death god. Because in the Mayan culture, Saizen, or Apuch, or Apuach, he has a female consort. Now, I don't really work... sometimes him and his female consort are combined into one. In the Popol Vuh, they are two. But I kind of work with the unified element of death from the Mayan pantheon. So I work with Saizen. That's how I see it. Now, he can separate into him and his consort, but I found that worked for me. Why? Because it removed all of my Catholic baggage and all of the things that I basically didn't want to work with anything Catholic. I wanted to work with something that was indigenous, and it was death, right? It has no Catholic baggage if you go to the source. Now, here's the problem I think that the actual contemporary occultists and left-hand path community have with that. It requires a little bit more work. You can't just run into a store or go online and buy an idol to these things. I think models of Miklante Kutli, though, are a bit more common. So to get one of the goddess, a custom sculpture of the goddess, is probably fairly easy, especially with like Etsy and stuff these days. I think if one transitioned to doing that, they would have a much healthier practice. Because at this point, like in Ghostbusters, don't cross streams, I think they're crossing streams in a way that's leading to unhealthy practices. That is my suggestion if you are looking for a death deity but have a problem with the Judeo-Christian current. Santa Muerte, you might be getting called to Santa Muerte really because you're getting called to the core essence, but you shouldn't stop at Santa Muerte. I'm speaking from personal experience, because if I continued working with her, I would be coming from an inauthentic place. And if you are trying to remove the Catholic elements of a Catholic synchronized Mexican folk deity, then you are coming from an inauthentic place. And an inauthentic practice leads to authentically bad results. This could be said for any kind of deity, but honestly, this is the deity that is getting the most treatments as far as synchronization, of synchronization gone kind of haywire in the contemporary sphere. I think it is a serious issue. I'll probably have to make more videos on the problems with Santa Muerte that I see going on. It's really no problems with the deity, it's problems with people and their execution on the contacting this entity and then trying to make it into something that it's not. So I would suggest actually getting to the root of it, finding that death deity that is actually to the core what you don't have a problem with, instead of having a Catholic folk magic deity and then just kind of saying you don't have a problem with it and be like, oh, well, people just put this imagery on her and that's not really what she stands for, but you're still using the idol that has Catholic imagery and Catholic energies embedded in it. And then there's the whole point of it just kind of being insulting to the culture if you do approach it from that. Because La Santa Muerte is, people will worship Santa Muerte on a Saturday or any other day of the week, and then they will go to church on Sunday, and they will believe in Jesus, and they will believe in God. Because she's actually kind of a part of that pantheon. Just in the mixtured sphere of synchronization. Again, I'm not trying to I'm trying to start a discussion. I'm raising questions, and sometimes questions can be uncomfortable. So I do urge, if anybody has the angst to, light a torch and come after me, I suggest that you ask why you're lighting the torch, because these are uncomfortable questions and they make us feel uncomfortable. Well, this video is going on too long. Maybe I'll make more on the topic. Until next time.